Hi there, Tarot Tube. Today is January 5th, 2018. I've been having a lot of internet problems today. Thank you, Optimum. They claimed that this should have been fixed by now. I am going to record this and then upload it when I get into work so that we have the daily broadcast up there. And I'm just going to continue with the same draw that I had attempted to do live. So what we're working with today is the Wild Unknown Tarot deck. We have no reverses, and we're using a spread called the Dyadic Cross. One thing that we pointed out in the beginning about the overall spread is that we had a lot of Pentacles, so a lot of the energy in this draw is going to be focused on practical, financial, security-based concerns, these types of things. We've also got two Queens, so for women, this may indicate some kind of like a competition. For men, this may indicate like a networking opportunity, a conference or something like that. And for both, it may indicate some kind of a choice needs to be made emotionally. Now, in this position, which we call the heart of the matter, this is the best overall summary of the situation that we're in right now. And Mother of Pentacles, she is a very nurturing mother. She is one who cares very deeply for her children and actually defines her identity around her children in this way. Somebody who is very likely to suffer from, like empty nester syndrome once her children leave because of, the emotional connectedness that she felt for them. And while she is, very capable of, securing a good life for her children, that comes at a great emotional cost to her herself. Now, while all of us might not be mothers, all of us might not have children, figuratively, when we're looking at like our own lives and looking at our own situation right now, a possible summary is that our emotional connections to others are defining us right now in a way that might actually be like a little bit unhealthy. Like, it's certainly okay to, make part of your identity the people that you associate with, but when it goes too far, when you get to the point where you kind of like lose a sense of self, you can get in a lot of trouble. And so I think this is serving as like a bit of a warning, and I think given the next card, that makes a lot of sense. Now, on top of it, we have sort of like the foil. And so what the foil does is this is something that is kind of like blocking the energy that we want to accomplish right now. And so what we're seeing here is temperance. Temperance is all about internal balance, balancing sort of like your emotional state, making sure that you have all of the necessary elements in your life, and it's also balancing like the different levels of consciousness. And so are you capable of, finding things in your life that that bring you joy, both at, like ethereally and practically? Like, do you actually like experience day-to-day joy? And so what I'm seeing here is that you need to ultimately build a lot more balance in your life by trying to find ways to define yourself personally. And a lot of times this takes the form of things like journaling, talking, vlogging, blogging, whatever you want to do to sort of just like reflect and maybe take on a new creative project. A lot of times I've seen people who like have an interest in some kind of a creative project, like they like drawing or something like that, but they're scared because they aren't very good at drawing. And the important thing about this creative project isn't actually to like go out and like seek praise from others, but just to create, just to like fill that need for yourself. Like, it's an activity for you, not necessarily for other people, because our main problem here is defining ourselves by other people. Now, this is the past, and these are past influences that might be influencing the current situation. And so what I see with Two of Pentacles is an energy all about like juggling things. It's all about like taking on like a bunch of different tasks and not necessarily dedicating full energy to each task, but performing all of them sort of like adequately. Now, this is in the past, and so this is a card that generally represents strength on that front. So it's not so much like Ten of Wands, where it's saying you're taking on too much. It's saying that like you're capable of taking on all that you're taking on. And so what I'm seeing here is that perhaps this development where you've started attaching yourselves to attaching your identity to others is a relatively new thing. And in the past, you have been able to, sort of like juggle all these different things, all these different facets of your life very, very competently. And so something's gone wrong there. And the concern is just that, you kind of need to get back to that, get back to the Two of Wands and demonstrate sort of more of that type of energy. All right, now this we call the root of the matter. And so this is maybe like the long-term underpinnings of what's going on. And so Mother of Cups, similar to Mother of Pentacles, she is a very nurturing mother. She's very strong feminine energy. However, hers is less focused on like the actual like security and practical well-being of the child. Hers is focused on like emotional connection. And so there's some strong woman in your life. There's a good chance this represents your own mother, who kind of built this way of being into you through her excellent connection with both you and others. And so she is a great role model, and I don't want to tell you to start like abandoning sort of this influence. That's certainly not a positive thing, because these connections with others are incredibly important. But you kind of need to look to Son of Pentacles, which we'll get to in a second, and try to like go after the self a little bit, and take some time to explore your own personal outlets. Now, Son of Pentacles, this represents our aspirations, and so this is something that maybe like you have been dreaming about lately, and I think it's going to bode positively. But Son of Pentacles is like a very like independent man. He in the traditional Rider-Waite, he's the only knight whose horse is not moving. He's sitting there and he's looking at a pentacle, and he's contemplating his next move. He's very contemplative, and he's kind of like entrepreneurial. His biggest flaw is that that he has like kind of a tendency to get like analysis paralysis. He sometimes fails to act because he's just kind of like overthinking every move. And as far as like this position goes, if you date men, this may represent a particular man who has these qualities, and you may be aspiring for some kind of a connection with him. If you don't date men, this card may kind of represent like a goal of being a little bit more like that, about being a little bit more thoughtful from like a practical perspective. Maybe you've been overspending in December. A lot of people overspend. I know I did, and it's maybe like telling you that you should kind of like aspire to be a little bit more thoughtful with your money, budget better, maybe eat better, something practical that you've been thinking about. And this says go for it. It says we're going to see good results if you follow those aspirations, and whether it is a man or a way of being, consider going after that. All right. Now this final card here in the right position represents the most likely outcome. And Two of Swords can represent two things. It can represent sort of like cutting yourself off from the world, which I think is definitely a risk of following the advice we saw over here, and something we want to avoid. But the other thing is kind of like making a difficult decision. And so this decision is often in the form of like cutting something off, severing a tie. And it might be that you have a relationship in your life that is a little bit toxic, that's kind of like, serving to encourage this kind of like codependent behavior. And it may be necessary for you to reconsider that relationship's role in your life in some way. Whether it is cutting it off entirely or just sort of like shifting the nature of it or the way you think about it a little bit, it's time to reevaluate that. And overall, I think we've got a pretty clear message here. that we've been spending too much time identifying ourselves with others, and we need to focus on the self a little bit. And there's a lot of different ways we could be accomplishing that. We can accomplish that either by reevaluating our relationships with others, or seeking to be a little bit more practical and a little bit more thoughtful in the way we make decisions. And so hopefully that's helpful. As always, please like and subscribe, and be well, everybody.